Hello, this is a video about lingua franca produced by the students Adriele Miranda, Daniel Caíque, Laisa Ribeiro, Laís Correia, Juan Tavares, and Tamires Oliveira from UFRJ. So get ready and come with us.
Have you ever wondered how you use English in different contexts, especially how English is used as a sort of a global language that helps people communicate, connect, and express themselves in different perspectives around the world? Well, many scholars also made these same questions and decided to investigate the use of English around the planet. Today, we will navigate through some of this approach. Professor Mario Saraceni, a linguist from the University of Portsmouth, published an article in 2008 that will help us. It is called English as a Lingua Franca Between Form and Function, and it addresses different aspects of the debate about the concept of English as a lingua franca. So, to start the discussion, we have the question: what exactly is a lingua franca? In order to get an answer to these questions, Saraceni goes through the pre-publication stages of the book he edited alongside Rennie Rudby, a book named English in the World, Global Rules and Global Roles, that was born into the in-classes interactions and insights they had while teaching English in different master's programs at the university. Stop and imagine. In these classes, to use the professor's words, they were teaching in English, about in English, with students from about 15 different countries. And in addition, each professor who taught the program came from a different part of the world, a real mix of nations. They were in a prototypical expanding circle setting.
However, the question remains, were they using one, global and singular English, or different Englishes were used in different parts of the world? That was the central point which drove the Kurt Cashford debate about world Englishes. Contrasting with the notion of an unique, correct English, which in this case would be the English spoken in the United Kingdom or in the US, WE takes into account not only complex social linguistic aspects, but also ideological ones, which means that an English speaker in Brazil will make different grammatical constructions. He or she may also speak some words with different intonation than native English speakers. And in the end of the day, that's alright. What truly matters, in this case, is intelligibility. If the speaker can pass the message across, if he or she is being understood. Comprehending that all these Englishes are valid is key in the process of offering an alternative analytical model for the uses of English in the world. That's what WE started to propose. These core values remained, but by the end of the 1990s, other scholars argued that the WE model was limited, as it could be better applied to countries in which different varieties of English are used internationally, inside its borders, than to countries where English is mainly used as an international language, not on a daily basis. It's in this context that the English as a lingua franca approach, aka ELF, is born. It was fresh, new, and above all, based on empirical research.
Scholars were developing a model of analysis which emphasized the role of English as a lingua franca for international communication rather than each variety of English used internationally. The paper, The Phonology of English as an International Language by Jennifer Jenkins, was seminal in this area because it shows a demonstration of how things could be done differently and provided clear proposals for those involved in the pedagogy of English. The main argument is that it's not necessary to spend time and energy in teaching and learning all aspects of phonology because you're trying to emulate native speakers, but it's advisable to concentrate on the discrepancies that cause actual problems of intelligibility. Jenkins' work provided a clear indication of the direction of ELF research, which goes by empirical description of the use of English as a lingua franca worldwide. This kind of description showed to be necessary according to the following reasons. The use of English as native language is different from using English as an international communication tool. English is still teach for foreign students, as if it would be taught as a native language. There is a need to be developed a different model that takes into account international users' needs. This model should be based on empirical description of the ways in which successful non-native speakers of English actually use this language as a lingua franca.
Saraceni showed not to be entirely convinced by the English as a lingua franca project according to three main positions. First, a purist and traditional that saw English as a native language as the best and only model of English for the world, and this position used to be the most dominant in English language teaching as industry. The second one is the World English paradigm, that is against a monolithic English as a native language and for a pluralized view of English in the world. And the last one says that there is a search for an alternative model to English as a native language, one that could be more relevant to the people who use the English as a lingua franca for international communication. But what didn't convince him about the English as lingua franca approach was that it seemed to want to replace one model for another with a one-size-fits-all model, which wasn't so different from Quirk's idea of an international English. Another point that made Saraceni skeptical was that, according to Seidelhofer, the English as a lingua franca speakers would be interested in efficiency, relevance, and economy when it comes to language learning and language use. But in reality, it's possible to see them worried with emulating the way the natives use their mother language. A fundamental concern shared is that despite the quantity and quality of academic discourse about English in the world, there seem to be very little concrete changes in English language teaching practice. And it was thinking about it that Saraceni thought it was a good idea to speak up their concerns and invite some experts in the field to have a constructive debate. Quoting the introduction to English in the World by Saraceni and Rubdi, it says that the diversity of views on the subject clearly indicates that a debate would be timely in order to sharpen our perceptions and clarify thinking about this important global phenomenon. Such a debate should also lead to a better understanding of the pedagogical implications involved. The power that English and its speakers yield today makes it imperative that many of the controversial aspects relating to English as an international language be addressed. Identifying concerns that are particularly interesting or contentious from either point of view will hopefully not only help advance further thinking among the scholarly community, but yield important pedagogical insights that can feed into teachers' and learners' classroom experience.
Many students, professors, and contributors to English in the World have produced important publications to explain the ideas that they had expounded in this volume. In English in the World, the authors articulate positions in favor of descriptions of English as a lingua franca, and see we and ELF not as antagonists, but as aspects of the same phenomenon, namely the existence of varieties in use of English outside and beyond English as a native language that need to be granted full recognition. So, in this part, Saraceni would like to do an epistemological exercise with the aim of understanding exactly what is meant by English as a lingua franca. And he has two motives to do that. First of all, because Jenks, one of the contributors, said in her book that Saraceni and Henny had so seriously misunderstood what ELF was about. But she said they are not the only ones guilty of misunderstanding and or misrepresenting ELF. This leads to the second reason why Saraceni thinks an epistemological exercise is necessary. In particular, there seems to be a lack of clarity as to whether the term ELF refers to a language variety or set of varieties, or, more simply, to the role that English plays in various situations worldwide. It is not clear, that is, whether ELF is about form or function, but to simplify, this initial definition suggests that ELF is a variety of English, and the use of the noun phrase in English is syntactically and semantically in line with the idea that there are many Englishes in the world, hence, ELF would be one of them. ELF is not primarily a local or context language within national groups, but between them. ELF is a way of referring to communication in English between speakers with different first language. To sum up, 3 readings of ELF are therefore possible. ELF refers to the functions of English as used among non-native speakers as a shared common language. ELF communication does not have to exclude native speakers. ELF refers to local varieties of English emerging in expanding circle settings, such as China, Japan, Europe, Latin America, etc. ELF refers to a variety of English with its own phonological and lexicogrammatical features stemming out of the types of interactions involving primarily non-native speakers. The novelty in Kirkpatrick's account is that the concept of ELF is applied to an international but geographically, politically, and economically self-defined area of the world. We can therefore add a 4th interpretation of ELF. ELF refers to a distinct variety of English used internationally as a lingua franca in a particular region of the world.
Even though Saraceni reaches no satisfactory conclusion about a close to the ELF definition, he still points out the best way to understand English as a lingua franca. That is, anyone taking part in international communication needs to be familiar and have in their repertoire to use when and as appropriate certain forms such as phonological or lexicogrammatical that are widely used and widely intelligible across groups of English speakers from different first language backgrounds. Saraceni shows us that sometimes concepts, ways of viewing and analyzing the world as much as the ways people use English get stuck or lost in academic discussion limbos of who is more accurate or in theoretical holes or even in some dangerous prescriptive views, as the hows and needs to. Overall, it just misses the sight of what is really important, the corpus research of the language being constructed by interactions that change constantly. In this sense, Saraceni paper helped us to build a better understanding of what English as a lingua franca means. It opened our eyes about how critiques and exchanges between different views of the same matter can help studies to evolve, and it creates a positive, concrete advance in the way we perceive and use English. It is a concise and somehow hard text to get a hang of entirely, but with patience going through point to point and debating with each other, we believe we were able to cover and learn the key points of the article. We agreed that, taking everything into consideration, focusing on what English is, its function, to us as future teachers and forever students, instead of which one we should use, in this case its form, would be more productive. And that's it. Thank you all for your attention and see you in the next video.